Welcome back to Family Christmas Treasures, edited by Kacey Barron, a compilation of Christmas stories. We're in section 2, number 4, The Legend of the Poinsettia, by Pat Mora and Charles Ramirez Berg. Award-winning author Pat Mora is a native of El Paso, Texas. Charles Ramirez Berg is a professor at the University of Texas, Austin. In this tender story, infused with Mexican tradition and lore, we can all rejoice in the gift of giving. Long ago, in the little Mexican town of San Bernardo, there lived a boy named Carlos. One cool night, Carlos opened the heavy wooden door of his small home and peeked out. It was quiet. Chimney smoke danced from the roof of each adobe home. Carlos knew why families were eating early. Tonight was the first night of the posadas. "Chico, come and look at the stars," Carlos said to his playful brown dog. "See how they glimmer? Even the heaven knows the celebration begins tonight." Carlos shut the door and looked at his Aunt Nina, who was roasting green chilies. Her hair was white, and she moved slowly. She was Carlos' whole family, and she was enough. They sang, they danced, they played, they talked. Their home was small and bare, but full of warm love that made their air sweet. "Carlos, when you're out under the stars, sing with your heart. When you return, I will make you hot chocolate, and you can tell me all you saw. You are my eyes tonight, Carlos. See everything. Here is your candle." Outside, Carlos took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders. He looked in the window of his home and saw Chico and Nina warming themselves by the fire. He felt happy knowing he would return to share his adventure with his two friends. Carlos joined a group of people gathered before a home that seemed to glow. There were candles in all the windows. Soon 4 men arrived carrying a large wooden tray on their shoulders. Carlos stood on tiptoes to see the statues of Joseph and of Mary riding the donkey. A tall man spoke. "Time to start," he said. "Tonight we begin our journey. We are travelers seeking room in the inn, the posada, just as Mary and Joseph did. Each night for 9 nights we will meet and carry the statues to the next house on our trip. We will knock and ask for shelter for the night. The special time is a time of preparing our hearts for Christmas, of deciding what gift each of us can offer the infant Jesus." Carlos looked at the people around him. Most wore better clothes and newer shoes, but tonight they all held hands. The tall man knocked on the door and the group sang, "Who will give them shelter? Who will help these two?" The family from inside the house answered, "What if they are thieves? What are we to do? It is Mary and Joseph. They need a place to rest. Open all the doors for our very special guests." Slowly the door of the house opened. Carlos' eyes grew wide as he saw the mounds of food and the sparkling decorations. Nina had been right. The birth of Jesus was the best reason for a party. The group knelt and prayed, and Carlos squeezed his eyes shut and thought. A frown wrinkled his little face. On Christmas ever would he go with the other children of San Bernardo to the church. Each child would place a special gift at the manger for the baby Jesus. He had no money, neither did Nina. What gift could he give that would be special? The prayer was over. With a cheer, the children hurried to the other side of the room to play the games and enjoy the food. The lady of the house said, "Come, Carlos, you play and eat too. Enjoy the posada." "How much I will have to tell Nina and Chico," thought Carlos, "so that my story will not be too long. Each night I will tell them about one little part of the posada. Tonight I will tell them of the statues, the songs, the prayers." And so it was. "Tonight it rained candy," said Carlos when he came home on the second night. Nina smiled. "Ah, a piñata," she said. "Oh, Nina, it was so beautiful," Carlos said. "A star made of colored paper hanging from the ceiling. Whack, whack, whack went the stick as one by one we tried to break the piñata. Finally, a strong girl did break it, and candy, delicious candy, poured out of it, covering the floor. We all scrambled to grab some." "Here, Nina," said Carlos, holding out his hand. "I brought us each a piece." On the third night, Carlos returned carrying a small bundle. "Tonight, I will tell you of a table that, like the tables in my dreams. There were mountains of steaming tamales, a huge pot of beans, plates of cookies, a tower of thin, crisp, round buñuelos, sparkling with sugar. Carlos unwrapped his bundle and smiled at the look on Nina's face as she saw all the treats that had been sent to her. "Help me eat all this," she said. Carlos held up a bit of sweet tamal for Chico, and Chico jumped and picked it from his hand and ate it. Even Chico enjoyed food from the posada. "What do you have there?" asked Nina when Carlos entered his home on the fourth night. His hand was closed in a tight fist. "You'll see," he said with a wide grin. Carlos sat down and began a story with Chico's head in his lap. "Tonight I will tell you about my favorite game at the posada. The lady of the house gave the children special eggshells filled with confetti. We all ran about cracking eggs on heads but tried not to get hit. We laughed and laughed." Carlos then held up one of the eggs to show Nina, but Chico thought it was another tree and jumped to bite it. The egg exploded, and suddenly there was confetti everywhere in the air. All three of them were covered in tiny bits of red, yellow, green, and blue paper. Carlos placed a soft kiss on Nina's head. "You look pretty with paper jewels in your hair," he said. "And you," said Nina, pointing at him and laughing. "And Chico," they said together and laughed. The following night, Carlos went to bed early after posada. Nina tucked him in his snug bed, and she knew something was troubling Carlos, but she said nothing. After Nina went to sleep, Chico began to lick Carlos' face. Carlos scratched Chico behind the ears and whispered, "My friend, what shall I do? I can bring Nina candy and buñuelos and confetti, but what can I take to baby Jesus on Christmas Eve? These are magic nights. I want my gift to Jesus to glow like a jewel." Chico put his head on Carlos' shoulder. On the sixth night, Carlos walked home humming the carols he had sung. The stars were so bright that he sat on his favorite round rock to stare at them. "I wish a star would drop into my hand," he thought. "I would carry it home and surprise Nina and Chico with the beautiful light. I would take it to the church Christmas Eve. I would set it before the manger. Now that would be a gift to be proud of." But no star fell. Carlos walked home and tried to sound cheerful when he sang the carols to Nina. "Look what the lady at the house gave me," Carlos said as he entered the house on the seventh night. He held 2 colored paper lanterns. "They are to make our town glow on Christmas Eve. They will light the way for the Christ child. On Christmas Eve we will light the lanterns. They will be in trees on roofs around the church, and this year, Nina, we too will have our own to hang outside our door. Oh, Nina, what a special night this Christmas Eve will be." On the 8th night after the prayers and refreshments, the children were told that the Indians from the nearby hills would be coming to join the procession to the church. Again the tall man spoke. "On Christmas Eve the Indians will be like the shepherds at Bethlehem. After you children place your gifts before the manger, they will dance outside the church. They will chant. That will be their gift." That night Carla asked, "Tomorrow will you go with me, Nina? And Chico will guard our home. First we will light our lanterns, then we will carry our candles to the last house of the posada. We will take the statues of Mary and Joseph and place them in a manger at the church. Their journey will be over." Carlos became quiet. "And then," said Nina, "you and the other children will each place a small gift before the manger." Carlos said nothing. "I know," said Nina. "We have not talked about your gift. I know you have been thinking of it. Does it make you so unhappy that we have no shiny coins or beautiful flowers to give?" Carlos said nothing. "Jesus was not a rich boy either, Carlos. He loved to run and play in the hills by his town just as you do. Go out tomorrow and collect the small plant that grows wild near the rock you watch the stars from. That will be your gift." Carlos wanted to obey Nina's words, but it would be hard. These nights of the posada had made him so happy. He wanted his gift to show that happiness. He wanted his gift to shine. How could he give a king only a common plant, a simple weed people stepped over and ignored because it was everywhere? "The infant Jesus will understand," said Nina. "Love makes small gifts special." Finally, it was Christmas Eve. Carlos lit 2 candles and placed them in the small paper lanterns. He hung them on either side of the door. He left Chico at the doorway. The lanterns swayed in the wind. Carlos then took Nina's arm to escort her to join the posada. In his other hand he carried his gift, his small plant. The air was warmer, sweeter. The whole town of San Bernardo was aglow. The Indians quietly walked with the others to the church. Carlos stood in line, holding his little plant. Some of the children carried roses, fruit, others carried bread or cheese. Tears of shame slipped down Carlos' face. Such a small gift. Then something happened. One of Carlos' tears fell on the plant. Where it touched the green leaf, it made a red dot. A bright, beautiful, spreading red. Carlos looked at Nina. When he looked back at the plant in his hands, another tear fell away from his eye. His tears were making the whole leaf red. He looked at Nina again. She smiled. When it was his turn, Carlos carefully placed his plant before the manger. Now the entire top of the plant had turned red. It was the most beautiful gift. Outside, Carlos looked at his town of San Bernardo. He saw the colored lanterns dancing in the street. Tonight, in his little town in Mexico, he saw that all the small plants, like the one he had given, had changed color. They were like bright red stars. They, too, would light the way for the Christ child. The Indians began their slow dance, beating the rhythm by shaking gourds filled with seeds. As Carlos watched, he squeezed Nina's hand. She had been right again. Love is magic. Love does make small gifts special.